Hi. Yeah. It's a great privilege to be here again today. We This is the third edition of this program, and I'm sure you are really enjoying everything that has been coming from this place. I also want to encourage you to talk to your friends, people that might be having issues with their vehicles here and there, that are looking for professionals to talk to get a clear uh, perspective of what is actually wrong with their vehicles. Um, we will always be here, to ensure that you have the best, get answers to your questions. Um, Today, I will be handling the show alone. Um, the the fact that uh, my co-facilitator, my co-panelist here, Mr. Patrick, is not available this evening. So, and today I will be talking mainly about automatic transmission. Yeah, I'll be talking about automatic transmission. We may not be able to exhaust it today, but I'm really going to give time for questions and answers. Um, you know, I remember growing up when you see somebody that uh, drives an automatic vehicle, they will say, "Oh no, he's driving a lame man's car." That's because we are so addicted to shifting the stick, and we just believe if you don't shift the stick, then it's not a good car, or probably maybe uh, whoever is doing that doesn't know how to drive. You know, at times I remember friends asking you that, can you drive a manual car? If you can't drive a manual car, probably maybe you don't really know how to drive. You are not a professional driver. Actually, we encourage people to make sure that they can drive all form of uh, transmission for vehicles, if it is manual or automatic. So, but suddenly we discover that automatic vehicles now become part and parcel of us. Nobody even wants to buy manual cars nowadays. Everybody wants to buy automatic. And the manufacturers, vehicle manufacturers, they have also upgrade, to a point where you have all the features on your vehicle. You can shift manually. You can put your car on sport, and the transmission shifts you and respond to the way you accelerate your cars. And at the same time, you can drive it and just put it on drive, and you allow the transmission to shift on its own. So, it's quite an interesting experience how we actually got to this place. You now have cars that has uh, transmission speed up to 8 gears. So it's quite interesting. Now, I will just give you the brief history of uh, automatic transmission, because there are some people that have been working on the automatic transmission uh, for a while. The history goes back to 1902. But the first vehicle to enjoy automatic transmission in it, you understand, as in a true automatic transmission, was by General Motors in 1948. It's a 1948 Oldsmobile, that's the car there, 1948 Oldsmobile. So, the General Motors developed that technology, uh, uh, and since then it began to have it. In 1921, the first automatic transmission was actually invented by a Canadian steam engineer, call him Alfred Omar Monroe. Monroe designed his device to use compressed air rather than the hydraulic fuel that we have nowadays. We always say, okay, my gear oil, that's the hydraulic fuel they are talking about. So, and he realized that it lacked power, never became sold commercially. Yeah. So General Motors started developing, their research and development, and they came up with the one that uses hydraulic fluid around 1930s, and they introduced what they call hydramatic transmission in 1940. So it was in 1948 that they put in Nanos Mobile, you understand, and that's what we call a true automatic transmission, then, and and since then we have had developments in that area, that we now have CVT transmission, we have we have Triptronic, we have Triptronic. So, and that what that means is that, okay, if you're driving your vehicle, instead of allowing it to shift itself, you understand, the transmission, the Triptronic, you can shift it. Despite the fact that it's an automatic vehicle, you see most of the vehicles, recent vehicles that you see nowadays, you see plus and minus. You see plus and minus, and that's the work. You can downshift, you can upshift. Whether you want to go to gear 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can do that. And we have some automated manual transmission too. You see those ones in likes of Ferrari, and and we have CVT, like the lineartronics we find in vehicles like Subaru. You understand? So the main advantage of an automatic transmission is that so. Um, Sorry for the breaking transmission. So uh, there is an argument that when you drive a manual vehicle, you are actually saving more fuel. That you actually save more fuel than when you drive an automatic vehicle. Um, Really, it's yeah, because now we now have more efficient automatic transmissions that that can do the work. I was talking the other time about the the types of automatic transmissions we have nowadays. Um, we even have some that you can shift with your hand that use paddle shift. That is paddle shift. They can also be found on certain automatic transmission like the Triptronic, the automated manuals, and the CVTs, continuous variable transmission, and the types that you can find in a Subaru. So, and if you look at it, we know that our transmission has fluid, makes use of fluid. And part of the challenges that people faces with their automatic transmission is that there is a mileage that your car gets to, that you have to change your transmission oil. We have some transmission that uses what we call life oil. And what that life oil means is that it's a long life oil. So you can have that transmission oil inside your car for as long as possible. Some vehicle will do 200, 300,000 kilometers. You don't even need to change it. So you find that in some vehicles like Land Rovers, BMW, mostly premium vehicles. But for the common vehicles, like a Toyota and other vehicles, the transmission is expected to be changed at a particular mileage. Some vehicles is at 50,000 kilometers, some at 60,000 kilometers. I don't think there's any of these average vehicles that we have that can actually do up to 100,000 kilometers. And the reason is this: because of the quality, the composition of the oil, it's not expected to stay longer inside the vehicle, longer than that mileage. So the moment the quality reduces, a transmission, a gearbox has different components, mechanical components in it, and they begin to wear. And when they begin to wear, if you delay before you drain the oil and change the filter, chances are that you begin to see iron filings, those particles in the fluid. And before you service, that's why some people will service their transmission, and they will discover that before they took their transmission for service, the vehicle was shifting well, everything was working well. But the moment they drain the oil, the uh, the transmission misbehaved, and they'll be wondering how come this vehicle I don't have issue with it before. How come it is after you have changed the transmission oil I begin to face this problem? It's because the ions filings are in the system that are shocking, different spaces, and it's making it to work. The moment you drain the oil, they came out with the oil. And when they came out with the oil, you put another oil. There's nothing filling in some places. So your transmission tends to malfunction at that point. That's why it's very, very important that you keep up with the maintenance of your transmission. It's very, very important. If you're lucky, you have a vehicle that's probably, and that's why most of us that buys our vehicle from like America or import used vehicles to the country, it's very, very critical that you ensure that you get the vehicle history. Some you can get Carfax. There are several of them. You can get the history of your vehicle. You can know what has been done on the vehicle at different times, so that if before you even buy it, especially if you are opportune to decide what you want to buy before ship it in, or probably when you go to a dealer, you pick the VIN number, you can check online and get the history. If you know the time the transmission was serviced, when the car gets here, one of the best things you can do is to make it, if you know if you take it to a proper dealership or a workshop that is very experienced, they can know the quality of the oil will actually tell how long the oil has been in the system. Then they can change it. And when they are changing it, you don't just put any form of or any kind of oil inside it. I spoke about the life oil the other time, the kind of oil that we find in vehicles like BMWs and co. The There are some vehicles too. I mentioned about the CVT, the one that runs on the CVT transmission, like Subaru. You have to use a CVT oil there. If you want to change the oil on your Toyota vehicle, most of the time you use Toyota T4. You understand? It's important that you go for manufacturer, the OEM supplied or original equipment manufacturer supplied oil for you to fit into your vehicle is very, very important, because those components are very sensitive. So it's important you put the right oil inside it, and you change the filter. So when you do this, you can protect your vehicle, and you also monitor it as you are driving. The moment you are covering another 50, 60,000 kilometers, you should be prepared to also service your transmission again. So um, that's part of this I want to share about the transmission today. And transmission behaves in different ways. Transmission behaves in different ways. When we discuss the issue of vehicle cooling system, I think that's our first edition. We talk about how the radiator also cools the oil that is in the transmission for most vehicles. Now, that's very, very important. So that's why you have to be give more attention to your cooling system. It is important that your vehicle cooling system is on point, because it's not going to affect your engine alone, it can affect your transmission. You have some vehicles that we change the transmission because the transmission overheated. You understand? So that's why you see driving some vehicles, you be see AT temp. That means automatic transmission temperature. When the dashboard begins to flash such lights, you know that, oh, there is overheating in the system. So, and gearbox can misbehave in different ways, from maybe you start noticing that this gearbox shakes or jumps the moment you want to move from one gear to the other, or probably maybe when you are decelerating that the gear is coming down. Some vehicle you can even feel it in your body that as if something kick you from the back seat. So there are several experiences. For some vehicle, the vehicle is just refuse to move. So we usually advise people when you begin to notice some changes that there are no you are losing a kind of smoothness that you're supposed to enjoy when your car is moving, then you have to quickly give attention to that, because most times most of these issues are easily resolved if they have not gone further than where they're supposed to get to for you to repair them. So I always advise people to, and when you're driving, look at your mileage, ask your technician questions to ensure that the vehicle is due, when it's due for a particular kind of repairs or service, then you can do that. So that so many things that we could have discussed about the automatic transmission today, you know, we but we will be looking forward to entertain questions from anyone. If you have any question for us, as far as the as your vehicle is concerned, it may be around the transmission, it may not be around the transmission. It could be any other problem. And let's discuss it. So while we are waiting for that, I want to use this opportunity to introduce to you our plan for uh, the this period in AutoGig. Last week, I mentioned about our training program we have uh, that I wanted you to subscribe for. It's in form of 3D animation, and the advantage of our training. The advantage of our training is that you can do major part of it from your house. Understand? You can do major part of it from home. You log in, we give you the access to the portal. You log in, then you take this training. Then we have classroom training, and thank God that the lockdown has been uplifted. So our training room is also open. We have put every form of uh, plan in place to make sure that the place is as secure as possible for you not to contact the virus, so that you can do your training. You can come in. There's internet and laptops for you to that you can use to access this training in case you don't have internet service. So I'm trying to put up the adverts for us to see. Um, so anyway, so while we are waiting for that, we'll be expecting our questions so that we can answer it. So I think we are beginning to have questions here. Okay, somebody just asked a question now. Said, um, "Is transmission won't engage or stay in gear?" Okay, okay. I think I understand what it's trying to say here. That the transmission won't engage. If you put the vehicle into gear and doesn't move, one of the things you need to take note of is that there's a tendency that the transmission is low on fluid. You understand? So that's why from during our first episode, we said before you move out every day, make sure that you check underneath the vehicle if there's any leakage on the ground. It could be your engine oil, it could be your fast steering oil, it could be your transmission oil. So if your vehicle is low on transmission oil, chances are that you will experience this kind of thing is high. It may not engage, the gear may not engage, or probably maybe when you are moving, it takes longer time to go to the next gear. The moment you begin to notice that your vehicle don't usually stay long like this before it shifts to the next gear, based on the way you accelerate, then you should take note that chances are that your transmission fluid is low. Yeah. So and at times that we have some vehicles nowadays that will tell you that your transmission oil is actually low. Some of these recent vehicles we show you that. But if you drive a car that won't tell you that, you have to be very, very sensitive. That's why I said if you notice that your transmission is not shifting appropriately, you understand? That's the first thing you need to take note of. Is either there's leakage, which will definitely result into low fluid in the system, or probably the the transmission fluid has expired. So um, somebody is asking transmission sleeping or engine is revving high. That's the same thing I just talked about now. The condition can actually be caused by low transmission fluid or contamination due to lack of maintenance or water intrusion. Probably water has entered into the transmission oil, so it can cause that because it will lead to internal wear and tear of the transmission gear. You know, so when you are accelerating, you discover that instead of for your transmission to switch from one to two, by the time you get to maybe 2,000 or 2,500 revolution per minute, you realize that your revolution per minute is getting to like 4,000 and it's still not shifting. Then you have to take note of this now. Um, at times, some people will work on their transmission and they discover that when they try to start their vehicle, the vehicle is not starting. Most of the time, it's either your gear knob did not enter into park properly. So when your technician work on your transmission, you have to take note of this. You have to take good note of this to make sure that when you are starting your car, it's not a case of you are shaking your gear knob to be in position. Understand? But when you experience it, it's either you just put your gear knob to neutral. When you put it on neutral and you try to start the vehicle, you should be able to start. If you start like that, then something has to be done to the shifting lever. Probably maybe something has been tampered with. Understand? So um, I'm also expecting more questions. I'm expecting more questions. Um, so, okay. Okay. All right. Okay, I just received another question here right now. Said if the you press your clutch pedal and it grabs very low or very high, that has to do with the response of your transmission to your acceleration. That has to do with the response. So if it is abnormally low, chances are that something is wrong with your transmission. Some vehicles you have to notice that when the transmission is about to get um, problem, or probably maybe something very funny is about to happen to the transmission, the first thing that happen, the first thing you notice is that the transmission will switch to safe mode. We have that in most of the premium brands, BMW, Mercedes, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Ford. Transmission shifts to safe mode to protect the jet system. You understand? So the vehicle will be permanently on gear 3. So when you are now accelerating, it will take time to move, but you will notice that it's not shifting. You understand? You notice that it's not shifting. So when is now when you try to accelerate further, you may not be able to move faster at the pace you want to move, but it will be the speed will be increasing on its own. You understand, gradually. So that should give you a signal that probably maybe the transmission is faulty, and you have to look into it. For some of these vehicles, it will show you a notification that your transmission is faulty. Understand? It show you that your transmission is faulty, and when it shows that your transmission is faulty, just take it to your uh, mechanic immediately. There are some other behaviors that transmission do have, especially vehicles that have transmission that also carry their own brain box, what we call an ECU, electronic control unit. So when your electronic control unit, the gearbox electronic control unit, for some vehicle they call it EGI, when they misbehave, it's as if it's just like the brain. When something happens to a brain, it misbehave. The person that is carrying the brain misbehave, just like the brain box of the vehicle. When it has an issue, the fuel going to the injector will not, come out appropriately the time it's supposed to come out. Maybe some features will malfunctions and things like that. You won't even enjoy the vehicle. And the same thing happens to the transmission. When the brain box has issues, either probably maybe as a result of um, some electrical connection on the system, and uh, it affects the components inside the ECU. When it malfunctions, your transmission too misbehaves. Most of the time, it goes to save mode. So the first thing you need to do is to ensure that your transmission is diagnosed. You understand? I advise you take it for diagnosis. Let them know the exact problem your transmission have. You know, let's know the exact problem the transmission have. So when you get the fault code, you understand? When you get the fault code of the transmission, it now give you the full information, because for instance, if the ECU is bad, the diagnostic machine may not be able to even interact with it. So if it's not interacting with it, you know that probably maybe it's a connection problem, or probably maybe the ECU is fried. But if it connects with it, it will definitely give you a fault code, what will have been happening. So it tell you whether it's the solenoid in the transmission that is faulty. There are so many things we will have explained to you about the workings of the transmission, but we have gotten a couple of feedback that we are going too technical, that a lot of people are not engineers like us, that we understand this thing better. But it's just to let you know the basic things that you just need to know about your transmission. The fluid is not any kind of fluid, transmission fluid you can put in your gearbox. It's very risky. The manufacturer specific transmission oil we can use. Um, at the same time, when you begin to notice some other issues like your car is not responding to acceleration properly, or probably maybe it's taking time for you to shift to the next gear. All those things is a signal. Yeah, I'm not saying excuse me, you should use this to say, okay, because AutoGig has told us that this is what we should do when our transmission malfunction, and that's what you should do. The first thing, just like somebody that is sick, take your car to your technician and let there be a proper diagnosis on it. But the moment you begin to see traces of oil under your car and you're not sure whether it's from the transmission or not, and you're beginning to notice that the drive is not smooth again, then it's critical and important that your car visit the workshop. And don't forget too, because uh, uh, like I said, don't forget that there are durations for you to also service your transmission. Duration for servicing transmission. So for different vehicle, you can talk to your technician, and if you need those information, you can email us, contacts are there. You can also follow us on all our social media platform and ask these questions. You understand? If you want to know, okay, this is the kind of car you drive, this is the year model and everything. So we tell you the duration that you should be servicing your transmission. It's very, very important. And the kind of oil that can be used, so that in case you go to your technician and he's telling you, no, you can use this one, you can use this one. The truth is that apart from that, there are some generic transmission fluid that people use, but what most automobile manufacturer does is that they add some additives that they are their own composition, their own, based on the kind of materials they use in manufacturing the transmission. So they have designed the oil in such a way that it will work perfectly for it. So you will actually prolong the life of your transmission if you use the appropriate oil for it. And let me also tell you, manufacturers specified oil for transmission are not usually cheap. So, and you should know what you're trying to do. You now compare the cost of the fluid to the cost of changing a whole transmission. So you have to weigh the options. You have to weigh the options, but you will save yourself a lot of headaches if you allow your technician to use the right oil for it. So just before we round up today, let me just put up the advert for the training. Like I said, so this is the training. Like the training is highly discounted. You know, the training is highly discounted, and we want you to subscribe, follow our social media uh, platform to to register. When you go to our pages, you see where you can register. You can also send an email to training@autogig.com.ng if you need more information. You can equally call us. You understand, for you to subscribe. A couple of people have already applied and for the class, and they are starting a batch this week. But the advantage of this is that you can actually come in at any time. This offer is going to end by the end of this month. This offer is only opened to the end of this month. We saw that a lot of people, because of the lockdown, they couldn't do much, and they want to acquire some knowledge, and they're given this opportunity for you to do it. And trust me, immediately after the offer closes, the price goes back to 180,000. We were doing it at 100,000 naira before, because that was the entry price in the first training that we organized, and the fact that we the exchange rate has also changed, because the training actually has a lot to do with the exchange rate. So we we'll be changing the price by the end of the month. So there's also something that is coming up, I don't have the advert here yet, but if you check our social media um, platforms, if you follow us during this week, it's very, very important. We'll be doing free diagnosis for some vehicles. We'll be doing free diagnosis for some vehicles for some customers. So you have to pre-register. It's not going to be open to everybody. It's only for people that register within that period of time. And there's a maximum number of vehicles we can do in a day. But let me tell you something. Your vehicle has never been diagnosed this way before, ever, anywhere, anywhere. So this is where you come and you get a complete health check for your vehicle. Everything, including the health of your car seats. You know, the report you're going to get will let you know whether this car you still need to keep it the next 1 year. Maybe you just need to fling it immediately and buy another one. Probably maybe you just need to fix this car. Maybe it's just little thing you need to fix on this car and enjoy and get the value for your money on that vehicle. So this is also coming up. I think from I think before the week rolls out, we'll be opening the platform. So follow all our social media handles, just like I said. You see this advert and the link where you can actually register. So in the last 10 minutes, I've not seen any new questions coming in. So I want to advise you, join our, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I want you to also tell your friends here and there that, okay, this is what AutoGig is doing at the moment. We give people opportunity to ask questions, real-time questions about their vehicle, irrespective of the kind of vehicle you're driving, whatever the problem you might have been facing, we are always on ground to answer it. You understand? So we just give you the clue to what should be done to ensure that your car is in shape. You know, and if you want to buy a vehicle, you just need some advice. You want us to talk about some vehicles for you, to you, we can also do that. So it's a great privilege to have you this evening, and we hope you join us next week for another episode, which by God's grace we'll be having more people on our panel from next week. So um, during the week, you see the adverts, you see what's coming. Something new is coming from next week. Thank you very much. Enjoy your week and we wish you the best. Till next week.